Jesus Trilogy, Book 1, The Four Messiahs, Chapter 14. Mary walked into the shekel at precisely noon. Joseph was already seated with another man at a table in the middle of the room. The check tablecloths brightened an otherwise rather benign atmosphere. There was a bar, though, inlaid with silver shekels in its countertop. When Joseph saw Mary, he stood immediately. "Mary, this is Judd, my foreman, and at the next table is Ferd, another guy I work with. Guys, this is my babysitter." "Our pleasure, miss," Judd said. "We have a little business to discuss. I'll see you back at the factory." "Some babysitter," Judd said to Ferd as the two walked to the door. "I'd sure like to take her out and show her some of the sights some evening." The two laughed as they broke the plane of the door and stepped into the already hot sun. Joseph's face still wore a smile, the same smile Mary had seen that morning. She opened her mouth to speak, but Joseph spoke first. "Gabriel came to visit me last night." "The blue-eyed one?" Mary asked. Yes, the very same. "Said you're going to have the Messiah. Your baby is going to be the Messiah. He also said I am to be the father here on earth. Can you believe it, Mary?" Joseph's excitement was hard to contain. "Hi there." It was Gloria, along with Ramona, the town know-it-all, interrupting their conversation. "Hi, ladies," Joseph said. "Mary and I were just having a little lunch, discussing some business, the children." "It's nothing too serious," Ramona said with a sneer. "Well, we must get to our table. The boys will be coming soon," Gloria said. "Ta-ta." "Have a nice day, ladies," Joseph said as he stood. When Gloria and Ramona had gotten seated at a table on the other side of the room, they looked at each other and smiled. Joseph sat back down and said, "This isn't going to work, is it?" "I fear not," Mary said. "There are halfway houses for unwed mothers down in Samaria, where no one would know you." "Joseph!" Mary had exclaimed a little too loudly. Gloria and Ramona turned to look and then resumed their conversation. "Just an idea," he said apologetically. "The Son of God deserves only the best life has to offer." No more glances were forthcoming from across the room. "And he shall have it, only the best, that is." No more incorrect words were ever spoken. "Maybe I better get out of town for a while," Mary suggested. "I haven't seen my cousin Elizabeth for years." "It might be a good idea, Mary," Joseph agreed. "She probably could use some company. Zachariah's having a stroke and all," Mary said. "Yeah, how old is Zach anyway?" "I haven't heard. Maybe she could use some help." "Maybe so," Joseph said. "But what about the kids?" she wondered aloud. "I could take Rachel with me," Mary interrupted. "Yeah, the boys and I could get along." "When will you deliver?" he asked again too loudly. She put a finger to her mouth so he would keep his voice down. They both instinctively looked over to Gloria's table, but to Mary and Joseph's relief, both were deep in conversation with two men. "By my calendar, December 25, she said. "We could go down to Samaria and get married in secret. Then when things calm down, you could come back and we could have little Jesus," Joseph said, that grin coming back to his face. "What did you say?" Mary asked. "What?" "You said a name," Mary said. "I thought you knew. Gabe told me his name was Jesus." "What a lovely name," Mary said, a grin similar to Joseph's surfacing on her beautiful face. "What does that name mean, Mary?" "He shall arise from the house of David, and he shall save his people from their sins," she was reciting absent-mindedly. "What does his name mean?" Mary and Joseph repeated. "Oh, sorry, Messiah." They both stared into one another's eyes. Somehow the spell broke, and Joseph paid the bill. They went out, walking as close to each other as possible without touching. "I'll be home as soon as I can," Joseph said. "Joseph, there's just one more thing," Mary said, the smile still on her face. "What's that?" "You cannot love me yet." Even in the bright sunlight, Joseph's face turned a deep shade of red, but the look in Mary's eyes told him there would be plenty of time for that. Love makes communication so simple, so perfect, he thought. As he turned to leave, Mary admonished him, "Work hard, the baby will need shoes." She quickly cupped her hand over her mouth, hoping no one had heard her. No one had. Rachel, how's my sweet Rachel? Mary said as Rachel ran to meet her and hugged her. Rachel, look what I got. Mary held up a bar. Candy, a nickel, she said excitedly. A Snickers, honey, Mary corrected and began to laugh. Some words were hard for Rachel to form, but there was not much she did not understand. She scarfed down the Snickers bar. Thanks, Nancy, Mary said. Nancy was such a wonderful babysitter. Think nothing of it. Rachel brings joy everywhere she goes. She is so sweet. She is full of life. It's a gift, I think, Mary said. So it is, Mary. Mary paid the 20 pence an hour's time, and she and Rachel set out for home. As they walked, Mary said, Rachel, how would you like to take a little trip with me? To the park? No, to another town. I'm going to visit my cousin, and I was wondering if you would like to go along. What's her name? Elizabeth. Does she have kids like me? Rachel asked. No, but there are lots of kids near to where Elizabeth lives. Mary was choosing her words carefully. Can we go now? I want to see the kids. Not today, but soon, very soon. Now I must cook supper. Mary breathed a big sigh of relief. Rachel is the toughest hurdle. The rest would be a piece of cake. Me go play now? Rachel said. Good, you work the puzzle, Mary said. Goody, she shouted with glee and ran off. The boys got home soon after, and then Joseph arrived. The family ate in relative silence, surprising considering how happy they all were. Joseph and Mary trusted their future, but they didn't know it. Line for line, there was a difference. After supper, there was a knock at the door. Hi, Nancy, come in. Mary was not expecting any visitors, but said politely, Are you hungry, Nancy? No, no, you go ahead and finish. We have plenty. Joseph now interrupted. Mary, Nancy is going to watch the kids for a while we take care of that business. Shouldn't be more than a couple hours, Nancy, Joseph said, then to Mary. Get your coat. But the dishes, Mary objected. I'll take care of them, Nancy reassured her. Joseph took Mary's hand and led her out the door and down the path. They turned onto the main road before Mary spoke. What's this all about, Joseph? Come over to this bench. He led her over to the bench that stood under the largest tree in town. They were on the edge of the town square, and the lamplight was dim, but it still allowed them to see one another's faces. Joseph knelt in front of her and took her hands. His own big, strong hands were shaking. She perceived it, but she said nothing, merely kept on staring into his dark eyes. Mary, in the few short years that I've known you, I have always admired you, your beauty and your goodness and femininity. But in the past few days, it is as if my eyes were opened. You may not believe me, but I have come to love you. I can't explain it, but I know it's real. Mary, will you marry me? Mary felt a little lightheaded but recovered as Joseph tightened his grip to steady her. Yes, she said, almost inaudibly, but he heard her. He reached up and kissed her. Tears were coursing down both their faces, but they were the happiest tears of all, the tears of true love. Their lips slowly eased apart. They were still staring into one another's eyes. Joseph, I love you. Mary, I love you. Their eyes were still locked. Mary, we must go. We haven't much time. Time for what? Mary, the priest is waiting in the church. I spoke to him, and he said he will marry us in the church tonight. He took care of the license and agreed to keep it secret for the time being. I did tell him you were with child. He didn't ask any more questions. He goes back to Capernaum tomorrow. I'm sorry this is such short notice. He was out of breath from this spiel and thought she would probably not agree to marriage so suddenly. Wonderful, she said. Joseph couldn't believe his ears. His smile was even bigger now. Tomorrow I can go visit Elizabeth, Mary said. We must be going, Mary. The priest can't wait too long. She squeezed his hand and off they went toward the church. Do you take Mary to be your lawful wedded wife? The priest asked. I do. Mary, do you take Joseph to be your lawful wedded husband? I do. I now pronounce you man and wife. You may kiss the bride. The church was empty. The young priest turned away. The kiss took a full minute. They then thanked the priest profusely. They knew he would keep things quiet, since he seemed to sense that there was more to this wedding than met the eye. When Mary and Joseph reached the church door, they waved. As they turned back, their eyes locked. I have no diamond, he said regretfully. God will provide, Mary said, shrugging it off. There's one more thing, Joseph, darling. The scrolls say the mother of the Messiah is to be a virgin. I know, he said. Please hurry and deliver. I need you very much. And I you. As he stared into her beautiful brown eyes, he thought he detected a faint green glow. As they continued to stare, more love passed between them than any physical act could ever express.